Do you regularly think, why can we not have nice things? If so, leave a comment below, because I think in gaming, a lot of us do think, why can't we have nice things? I mean, it seems so obvious how to not completely cock up a game concept. How could it possibly go this wrong? Guess what? Today we're going to learn. How fun. Right, the people who get into the games industry really want to make games, right? How does management continually mess it up? Well, today it's going to be a big look into that, with, of course, Blizzard Entertainment serving as a beautiful case study, because they, the most bearish take is that they are going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, which is never really what you want to do. So, as we all know, management decisions are rampantly making our games worse, and one of the big themes of the last year or two has been of pressured publisher timescales, reduced optimization of games, frustrating ports, annoyances over credits, which do actually matter for people working in the industry, and a lot of other things. It's been a constant just caravan of bullshit. But very recently, we've really been getting to see more, right? And we've been beginning to see how it actually hurts employees. And this is something that drives people out of the industry, which is bad. We've got to talk about things like layoffs. Because don't people love constantly being anxious about their job? And then the people who, when the layoffs do happen, are left to pick up the buck, which is pretty damn bad when there's also a hiring freeze happening because costs are being cut, which means less new staff and more work, such that there's no slack in the system, everyone's stressed and sad. That'll definitely make the games good. Then also compensation reductions, people feeling less valued, wanting to look elsewhere, maybe being priced out of the sector entirely. And then forced return to office, where staff are having their lives disrupted. Some of those staff who maybe took the job based on being able to work at home, right, for whatever their personal reasons may be. Things like that. In every instance, though, the common theme is people feeling devalued, of projects being harmed, of the team who are left behind being demoralized, and ultimately a bad workplace that does not lead to excellent outcomes for the people who make them. That's bad. And in the last few weeks, we have seen really a lot in terms of layoffs, short-sighted decisions, things that seemingly are in the interest of the immediate bottom line, but I think from anybody who participates in this gaming economy, from the side of wanting to spend money in games, very bad for the long term. So, case study in Blizzard. Let's go! Because it's us, we are going to do it about Blizzard. This problem is everywhere. We do it in Blizzard because having a Warcraft channel, being very tied into that community, that's what we know, so that's what we're going to talk about. And this is fresh off the news that the rescoping of Overwatch 2's PvE has basically meant that a plan that had been in place for 4 years was reformed into something entirely different, very much disappointing not only the player base, especially the player base, but also the developers, who must be pretty goddamn gutted to have had years of their work not really matter as much. And this is because seemingly in 2019, the team were effectively tasked with building a whole second game with PvE elements, while still maintaining Overwatch, Overwatch 1, and all while also not being given the resources to actually handle the development of both. It really doesn't seem like a winning strategy, come to think of it. Then, of course, while all of this bullshit's going on, the actual real bullshit about how do we make Overwatch 2? This is impossible. We don't have the people. At the same time, they then have the big old cultural problems explode, where, not only are there the cultural problems, but then there is everyone's eyeball looking at them. Doesn't feel good. People don't exactly want to be a worker in Bobby Kotick's mine, right? Something that I know has driven people out of that company. They don't feel bad about whose pockets they're lining. I could go on and just say, oh yes, we all live in a society. Isn't that terrible? Maybe it is. That's a question for another day. Okay, through all of this though, right? Through all of this bullshit, Blizzard have actually delivered more content than at any other time, especially in the case of World of Warcraft. So here's some text from a tweet from a developer who is fantastic, who I absolutely trust. I also don't necessarily think that they want like the full, YouTube spotlight on. So I'll just like do the text here, because at the end of the day, it is the words that matter, and these are words from someone who absolutely does work at Blizzard. Forced RTO has cost us some amazing people and will continue to cost us more in the coming months. It is a terrible, short-sighted, self-destructive policy that is only weakening our ability to deliver the kind of game we want to make and that our players deserve. Now, this is an individual who is working on a content team with World of Warcraft that has been putting out more content than ever and better content than ever. Yes, I know. Me saying positive things about WoW. Some of us still get whiplash about that. Don't worry, me included. But seriously, the game is better. They are so much more responsive. The literal quantity of content is higher than ever. The cadence of the patches is faster than ever. And that was all done remote. Now, I know a lot of people like to say, you weak-ass liberals. That's definitely a straw man, okay. But I know for a lot of people it's like, hey, I work construction. Come on. Well, hey, look, my dad, he did a construction company. I spent all of my summers on a job site. Like, I get it. All I'm going to say is this. Let's only engage with this in terms of free market principles. Because even if we do that, right, there are two companies wanting to hire you. One of them offers more money, gives you more flexibility to spend time with your family, lets you work at home, if you want. The other company offers you less money, has a forced office policy that makes you get in a metal box for an hour every day while you go down a big thing of tarmac surrounded by other metal boxes and loud noises, and you have to do this twice a day, including to get home. And if you are going to be in a realistic driving distance, then if you don't want a hell commute, you're going to have to pay like $4,000, $5,000, maybe $2,300, a month in rent, because rent in that part of the world is absolutely goddamn insane. And if you want to pay less rent, of course, then maybe you've got an hour plus commute. All I'm going to say is that in the most laissez-faire free market that we could imagine, that employee is going to take their skills not to the company that makes them have to get in the metal box to go down the big strip of tarmac full of other metal boxes with loud noises, right? So I just want to nip that thing in the bud, because people, they respond to this by saying, man up. Brr. That's missing the point entirely. That is having an emotional reaction on free market principles. If you offer a worse deal, you will be less competitive in the employment market. And I can tell you for a fact, especially in SoCal, the labor market for games is goddamn tight. Companies are hungry for people. A lot of them are anyway. So, hey, you can strip all the emotion out and just say, jobs market, who's more competitive? This does not make Blizzard more competitive. And it also disrupts the people who are there, right? So staff are leaving because this environment is being made unwelcome for them. Or, of course, perhaps for some, the terms that they were hired under have literally been unilaterally changed, right? And it's been a case where some managers have been able to carve out special deals, but a lot of people haven't been able to access that. So the people who are saying, hey, you got to come into the office, themselves may not be coming into the office. And this is at a time where Unity, great game engine, company though, pack of demonetizable words. Right, when talking about the return to office policy, one of their execs said, why don't you just rent a second apartment in San Francisco? Because that's what she does. That's like, okay, we get it, you're rich. All the people you're talking to can't just get a second apartment in San Francisco. Are you mad? And the person who called out this bullshit on Twitter got fired for doing so. How hilarious. So, why change the deal? All right? The management seem to think that everything they're doing is good for business. Per Kotaku, per Kotaku's reporting, right? This is from people who are actually at this town hall. When challenged, Bobby Kotick relayed a story about the benefits of in-office working, which, is very relevant to everybody. He said this. One of the things I'd say in the 30 years I've been doing this is I can't tell you how many great ideas came from serendipitous encounters. People not having the planned conversation. And you know what, Bobby? I agree with that. That's true. Let's go on. Will he continue to be true? So he then said, give you a great example. A person who, Ronald Durnick, was our president, had been visiting a Walmart, saw a Guitar Hero flying off the shelves. He came in one day, had a guitar, and we saw it and we asked them what it was. Next thing, we got engaged in discussions to acquire Guitar Hero, and so that serendipity has always played a really important role, not just in small ideas, but big ideas and how you foster creativity. So from the perspective of the Bob, the value in being in the office is those random moments of chance that lead to great creativity, right? You know, things such as buying a company because you already thought their product is profitable. This was in response to a question that was basically framed as this. Why, some wondered, were staff being forced back to the office despite of, quote, performing exceptionally well? By the way, that performing exceptionally well quote, that's from Activision Blizzard's own investor, report from the previous quarter, right? Because the staff had clearly not been harmed. The products are all coming out, doing well. Why enforce this? Well, per Kotick, it's because maybe we should have a few more spontaneous conversations. And ultimately, this has just meant that experienced staff are leaving the company. Now, it is worth mentioning, though, that per Kotaku's reporting from their sources at Activision Blizzard, there is also kind of one rule for the C-suite and another rule for the people. Recent high-level hires responsible for selling employees on the policy, like Chief Administrative Officer Brian Bulatow? Probably Bulatow. And, of course, Lulu Cheng, Miss Cerveny, who, she is unhinged on Twitter. But anyway, they're fully remote. Whereas for some regular staff, they can theoretically get access to work from a home office, but for a lot of people, that's not how it's playing out. Here's a tweet from Adam from last month. The remote work issue is the largest one. Some real examples of what people are going through. One of my people already has permanent RTO, but wants to move states. She can't because we don't approve remote work, no exception. So she already is working remote. She wants to move from one state to another, which presumably here means, they have to reconfirm her status. And because of a blank policy, she can't. She just work somewhere else then, I guess. One of my people was hired in Colorado and understood she had a year to move. She now has to move by July. Great, just buy a house. Months earlier than you planned. I know folks who move further out, so it's more affordable. Commuting once a week is not a big deal. But 3x mandatory in office is a lot to commute from central CA. So, bottom line here, the company's got a new policy. If you don't like it, piss off. And that's basically paraphrasing what Mike Ybarra said in February, which is, we want people to be happy. If this new policy doesn't make you happy, you should go where you're happy. Now, as somebody who benefits from the fruits of those people's labor, I'd actually prefer they stayed and worked in World of Warcraft, the game I enjoy playing with my friends. Mike, that's not great. Because it's pretty bad then. I mean, this is amazing if you're a headhunter in the games industry. You're just be like, it's a barrel of Blizzard fish. I will get my LinkedIn spear. Let's go. It's totally how it's going to happen. So you got the immediate impacts as one thing. You've also got the constant degradation of staff and devaluation of their abilities in personhood, which does mean that the games that come from those people will be a bit more fucking soulless because they're just trying to make it through the day. And this has got a long-term impact that is bad. And also, there have, as well as this, there's been some partial hiring free stuff that we've heard about too, which is not good. Now remember, we got to use some nuance in this. This is great for some companies, it's not as good for other companies, and the reason I frame this all as being about how competitive you are in the jobs, in the jobs marketplace, is just that. If you're a very large company, you should try to be maximally competitive in the job space by leveraging your resources. So take a case like us as a younger company. We have more junior designers. We're all more junior because we're young. We've only released one game. So in a way, could we go 100% fully remote and be as successful? I actually don't think that. No, I don't. But we do offer remote stuff and flexibility absolutely as much as we can when we can so that things can fit around people's lives, because whenever people are rested and they feel like they can deal with their shit when they, come into the office, it means that those spontaneous things actually do happen. It's a bit like, as an example, the whole, the way all the big companies be like, we're instituting a new open office policy so that we can foster spontaneous moments. And all the research into open offices has pretty much found that they decrease employee communication and they move people onto Slack. So it's quite interesting that a lot of these things end up backfiring. So I would say it's not about quantity of butts in seats in office, it's about quality. So It's about like setting aside the time to like actually be the jazz band. Because sometimes that's what you are. You're a jazz band trying to, riff with each other and find new music. And that's great. And you have to do that in person. It's so much better. Like, I saw Marquez's video on Google's Project Star something, and it's actually incredible. That is so cool, right? It's like, yeah, cool. There's a 3D box of the person in it, and it looks real. And I have full, parallax. So check out Marquez's video afterwards. Like, hey, that would be sweet. If I could talk to our people who are in, Wales with one of those, that would be dope. It would be kind of like being in the room with them. I'd love that. And it would be more serendipitous. I'd see their micro expressions. We'd be talking with true depth and all of that. So there is a real potential for technological solutions to problems like this to really help us out and kind of get us away from that horrible, horrible situation of just Zoom calls all day, especially when people then use that NVIDIA, thingy that makes it look like you're looking at the camera, but then also makes you look like a total psychopath. NVIDIA's, it's cool tech, but it's weird. Anyway, point is, all these things have got to be done well, and really, really big blanket policies. That is a big company taking on the bad part of being a big company. Because the strength of being a good company is your resources, right? But your weakness is your flexibility. So a big company should always be trying to think, how can we be more flexible? How can we be more adaptive? How can we make ourselves a bit more impervious to the inherent downsides of our scale? And this is an example of precisely that not being done. So let's talk about the alternative here, right? So what happens when people are in a company where staff feel so valued and fulfilled that they actually stay there for their whole careers, right? And where structures around that company allow people to stay, work their best, deliver great experiences. I saw a tweet the other day about how is it that every mainline Zelda is at minimum very good, whereas other, game series run out of juice? And part of that answer has to be that the same people have been making them for 40 years. Yeah. Tears of the Kingdom does two things that represent two parallel development principles working quite well together. Number one, the designers did not have to literally rebuild the entire game from scratch. They got to build on top of something that worked. The designers using those tools are folks who have been doing so as a team for years. And that is what I aim to achieve with our company. The same team that's making our next game is pretty much the same team that made The Pale Beyond. Using a lot of shared tech, we'll obviously be advancing things, but our goal is to constantly improve and improve and improve and improve, and really try to focus on people and make that a great experience. Because the things that are good are things like that compound over time. You cannot, and believe me, for some of how game development goes, you cannot just throw bodies at the problem. You will not get the real raw essence of a beautiful experience from throwing bodies at the problem. I will admit I was a bit worried about Tears of the Kingdom taking place in the same map as Breath of the Wild, but it really is an amazing example of how batshit crazy a developer can go when they don't have to worry about building everything new from the ground up. So here, the value of reusing assets and tools and whole games is something that every developer and producer understands. It's almost always part of a plan for games development when it is possible. We're trying to reuse tech and things. It just makes sense. Why reinvent the wheel? The gamer's not coming for the wheel. They're coming for the cool experience. So focus on that, right? That's one thing. And then the value of retaining staff is that you retain individuals who know how those tools work, how those assets work. I mean, based on things I remember looking at Ethan doing some really, really cool stuff, and it was based on some things he tested out in Pale. He thought, how could I take this thing way, way, way further? And he came up with a really, really cool method that I thought looked really sick and really production friendly that I think will help us deliver really, really nice environments. That only happened because he's been here for a long time, worked on similar things for a long time, and those skills have been gained in a culture that is, all about that cool shit, right? So it is the retention of those people, people who have got secure jobs, right? That they care about, they are capable of working in a way that's fundamentally different to somebody who is just constantly fearing layoffs, constantly struggling with technology, and is feeling undervalued. As an example, how a single staffer has had responsibility for Ganon's design since Twilight Princess. That designer actually gets to understand that character on a deep level, as well as what people actually want from that character. You've got staff who've got institutional knowledge, who have the support of management, who are able to build those skills. They can do incredible things. So let's just take a look. This is a quote from The Verge on a designer's excitement about being trusted to do their job. Because this staff's a veteran to the franchise, he's really able to think about the needs and, the ones of his needs and the ones of the entire team. There's a part of this person that really kind of sealed away the love they have for Ganondorf in the designs that they've done in the past. But when I made this request to really make Ganon the way he is, because the spotlight is on him this time around, and he really is crucial, integral as a character, I vividly remember the sparkle in this person's eyes as they heard this. Because this is just like, hey, look, you've been doing Ganon for a long time. Versus Breath of the Wild, Ganon really matters here. This is your time. And this guy's just like, I have been training to do Ganon for years. Now is my time. And then players are delighted. To continue the quote, seeing that love, I was really confident I could just leave it up to them, knowing something great would come out of it. So as a player, you want that. That is what you want. You know? And what this means is that if you want your games to be good, you've got to back up those devs. You've got to support those devs. It's almost never a case of lazy devs. It is management who are bad, leaders who are not willing to invest in those devs. Like, developers are the reasons your games are good. They are almost never the reasons your games are bad. Most designers are good. It's pretty damn hard to get a design job in a games company. You actually do have to be quite good. But usually what happens is projects are bloated, mismanaged messes, and people are so busy just trying to keep above water that they cannot use their good talents. That's the way that it is, right? To continue, being loud about it because I've lost another person this week. This is Adam, who I believe is a producer at Activision Blizzard, specifically Blizzard. Blizzard is losing amazing talent because someone in power doesn't listen to the game directors who makes his products, right? Diversity and inclusion also means diversity of thought, especially when it's backed up by data and financials. Now, this is, diversity of thought. I think that's something that we can all get behind, right? The idea here that it's monolithic, top down, this is the policy. It has been decided. Fuck off if you don't like it. And then what happens? The boss then turns away from their email where they said this, and they go back to doing whatever their C-suite corporate bullshit is. And then the actual producers in the team now have to say, crap, the quest team has lost 3 quest designers. We have to cut quests now. The players won't get as much content. Business person, because they're not in the front line of the actual company, they never know. And that is why any CEO who does not regularly rotate into a frontline position on their company, be that, posting things to their community, be that seeing what's going on with the PR team, maybe editing the odd part of a video or anything like that, they will not have that experience from those people. They will be out of touch and they will make moronic decisions that hurt their own company. To continue, and look, I don't want to fight. I just want to make amazing video games. I want to make bestsellers that are critically acclaimed. I want to make better Dragonflights. I want to make better experiences. I can't do that if we get rid of everyone who made it. So it's like World of Warcraft Dragonflight, I can tell you, my job has been ripping World of Warcraft to fucking shreds for years, right? The amount of people in the WoW community who won't go near me because they think that I am some insane toxic asshole who just wants to burn Blizzard to the ground. There's a lot of them. Believe me, there's even times where I just some developer says something, I click and I was like, oh great, I'm blocked on Twitter. I asked probably something that I said in Shadowlands or Legion or Battle for Azeroth. But now I'm saying, no, it's actually way better. Legion was more cool, but game design wise, Dragonflight's a better expansion than Legion. The systems are better. The actual core design is better. They need to apply that to a concept that is as cool as Legion in order to get people excited. That's been the loss of Dragonflight. But it's way better as a game. It's got way more content. Big patch comes out, 12 weeks later, Mega Dungeon and a bunch of other things come out. 12 weeks after that, there'll be even more shit. It's insane. There's so much content. So to hear that while they are raking in these wins and actually putting in the work that has been needed to resurrect and to save WoW, that people in the team are just being like, lost another person on my team this week. Great. That's angering. If you want to know why your game is buggy at launch, if you want to know why your game does not have enough content, whatever it be, these things are the reason. And when you look at Tears of the Kingdom, that is just an example of they clearly had as much time as they needed to make that game, right? They appropriately scoped that game. They decided, you know what, we're going to keep Hyrule. We're going to do the under, we're going to do the over. There's going to be so much more content and it's going to be insane. They put in the hard work on a well-scoped project from a stable team who are treated well, who are respected well, who have a good work ethic. And once again, another absolute smash hit. Was it 10 million copies in the first few days? I mean, those are numbers, people. So why are we taking the inputs that produce those amazing Zelda numbers and destroying them in big, large companies? I mean, I understand there's a bit of cost cutting that I understand. It's like sometimes you grow so much that at a stage it becomes inefficient, and then you do need to trim the fat. Call me a heartless capitalist, but I do think that. Yeah, I see a lot of those tech layoffs, and I think, yeah, obviously Twitter should not have 10,000 staff. I know people like to scream and go mad about Twitter because Rocket Car Man bad, etc., whatever. I don't give a shit. Elon definitely embarrasses himself a stupid amount. For somebody ostensibly smart, he really does know how to be daft. But like, so many of these big bloated tech companies, you hear stories, or you see all of those like day in the life as a product manager at company, and anybody who's got a job looks at that and goes, wait, that's your job? Really? And the company cafeteria's food is that good? And you do that little work? And it's all meetings? And we're like, yeah, obviously those companies could be cut to ribbons because they're just bad. They're just inefficiently grown. So I'm not sitting here saying companies must be a charity and it's illegal to fire people because that's mean. No, I'm not saying that. Companies should be lean, they should be efficient, and they should be mission-oriented on making great products for their customers. I think that, absolutely. Running a lean company and, having a force structure within your company that is well aligned with your goals, that's one thing. Actively undermining your own company and damaging your own products, as is evidenced by the shit that they've wanted us to eat up over the last few years, that seems less wise. So, I don't know, maybe it's not particularly ideal if people who don't really know anything about video games are running the C-suites of video game companies. People who haven't really had much of a frontline role in the industry, who don't really know that much about development, who can't code, who, can't manage artists, who can't, just do anything that would have them perhaps have a deeper understanding of the inputs that go into the product they sell, because ultimately so many of these people, that they could be CEO of a random widget seller or widget making company. Anything. It doesn't matter. But the thing is, it's like there's one set of skills to ensure that the widgets that our company make will have a very high level of quality. But guess what? Video games are way fucking harder to make. Like, one of the things, aside from all of this, video games are one of the hardest things to make. They are so technical, so intricate. It's insane how video games even happen in the first place. And it is no wonder the budgets are massive. Video games are hard to make. And that is seemingly not respected by the people who make the big decisions at these companies. So, there you go. The developers see, I just want to make video games, man. Could you stop forcing people out of my team? And as gamers, what do we get? Shitty ports, bad games, disappointments, follow-up entries in franchises that just make us sad. Have you liked Mass Effect? Have you liked insert franchise here that's had massive disappointments? This is why it happens. And that is it for today. Check out this video next. I don't know if it's here. Maybe it's here. Who knows? But check it out, because it's sweet. I'll see you next time.